What's going on, Deep Art? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy. We back with another video. We got a special video we're going to talk about today. Special video we're going to talk about. We got a few different subjects that we want to talk about. We're going into psychology. In this video is for my athletes, specifically for my youngins too as well. This might actually be a critical thought video because we're going into another thing. We're going deep into a few things we want to talk about. The first thing regarding mistakes and regarding setback, regarding adjustments, missing shots, right? Failure. You know what I'm saying? Not meeting the status quo, not meeting percentage level, not things, you know what I'm saying? We're going to go into this, not performing at the highest altitude that you should, right? Not having a bad performance, right? So, first thing that we want to discuss in this topic about setback, understand that the things are put in place in order to break you, right? So the things that are put into place in order to break you. So of the things that's put in place to break you, right? You have to understand guilt is one of them, right? There are some things in order to make you perform lesser than where you're at, right? That the system uses, you know what I'm saying? On social media, most of the time, what gets pushed and pressed into, people's feed, ads, things like this it's always going to be the shortcomings of others and how others fail. It's going to be failure, right? It's going to be, or not even that. My bad. Let me check, because that's a lie. On ads, what gets pushed to people is temptation. You know what I'm saying? And it's to break this down further, right? Because of course there's not a word that actually describes this. It's throwing negativity into the thought realm, into your thought world. And it's going to continuously push negativity in you just for it to invade your thought space, right? That's what we want to talk about in this video, right? So when we talk about this, right, things entering your thought space, right, things getting pushed to you, negative things constantly being pushed into you to try to program your mind and add negativity and negative vibrations and low frequency things into your thought space, right? So this is done by this is done by, it can be done in a few ways, right? By the spaces and environments that you get in. One, spirits can or maybe just trials that you go through. You know what I'm saying? You may be someone who's just really high in altitude and someone who's who gets the job done, right? For people like this, right, another attack, but what's going to happen, and it's the most subtle thing, and spirits get away with this all the time, it's just infiltrating your thought space with negativity, right? Other people may be coming up to you saying all these negative, low vibrational things that they deal with, right? And they're just pressing it out into the thought space, right? Or it may be ads that you may be seeing over and over again about, people doing weird shit, you know what I'm saying? And people's weird problems and all other types of shit that nobody else goes through. But somehow, for some reason, it's right here and it's an ad. And you hear all this stuff about, not to say anything is wrong with gayness, but you see so much push of LGBT community and all this push right in your feed, right? This is a problem. This is not normal. This is actually an invasion of your own mental space, because what this is doing is adding this negativity or these low vibration. It's adding all this into your thought space, right? You know what I'm saying? So now it becomes this much harder to concentrate because you're forced to take something that has nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? You're getting forced to download all of this mental whatever, and try to work on your business when this shit has nothing to do with you and doesn't involve you, has nothing to do with you. It doesn't have anything to do with your purpose. It doesn't have anything to do with your, what you're pushing towards, but you just happen to be there. So you absorb it and it just completely infiltrates your mental space. Now, unfortunately with the mind, like, things are not necessarily, nothing's off limits when it comes to the mind. You know what I'm saying? And so I really want to touch on this video right here because I really want to point out that, right? It's the different ways, even trauma, trauma can affect the mental impedance on like how you're thinking, right? I say this to say this, right? It doesn't equate to bad behavior. It doesn't excuse bad behavior. It doesn't excuse any of this stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? With all this stuff that impedes the mental space. I say it like this because I want to say that in particular that, the mental space, and, when you get it doesn't represent you. You know what I'm saying? It really doesn't represent you. It just happens to be what's just in the mental space, unfortunately. So it just becomes harder to navigate. But with that being said, this is why I want to say it's important to really understand that. You know what I'm saying? Is to really understand the difference, right? Make the difference, right? And being authentic. The most important thing in anything that you do is authenticity. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the only thing that's going to allow you to be able to separate yourself from some of this stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? Is authenticity. And I do want to really continue to point out this, just go a little bit deeper into the subject of things invading the mental space or invading your mental space. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And it can be very, very crucial. You know what I'm saying? Things infiltrating your mental space. You know what I'm saying? Even your, even your spiritual space. You know what I'm saying? Things invading this space is what we want to, really grasp and understand. You know what I'm saying? So things get done. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes people go through trials, and amongst their trials, in a state of rest, thoughts and other distractions impede on your state of rest, or try to impede on your space of concentration, or whatever space that you're in regarding your work and focus, right? Locked in. Things can infiltrate the mental space from within the aspect of when you're locked in, right? Whatever you may be doing, working, resting, recovering, wax on, wax off, whatever state you may be in of deep focus in what you're trying to do. There are these other, people, or, not people, or spirits or other things that just come in order to try to disconnect you from, what you're doing, right? And it comes in the form of distraction, right? It comes in a form of impedance, right? We're planting seeds of just mental negativity in order for you to stomach out, so that way you can't rest. You know what I'm saying? You can't think, you can't move freely. You know what I'm saying? So we infiltrate your mind with this sort of, negativity or distraction, or this sort of impedance, of thoughts. So now you got your thoughts floating around, and then you got these other thoughts floating around that have nothing necessarily to do with you. So, like maneuvering through this aspect of just, trying to deal with this can be, tricky, because now unlimited factors, getting into play in order to try to, resurface these thoughts, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's like hard sometimes, hard to get away from, you know what I'm saying? So this is what we really want to point out in this video right here. It's just to, in order to keep your flow, keep your natural rhythm and natural, way and natural functioning, mentally and physically, and, in authenticity and how you think and how you, approach things, and staying in your grace, And by staying in your grace and not like formulating your grace, this will allow you to be, more able to deal with this sort of thing. It's just a matter of staying within your own grace. Staying within your own grace and understanding that these things can come and sort of implement and impede on your mind. Because at the end of the day, this is just stuff floating in the mental realm, right? It's just stuff floating in the mental realm. And if it don't involve you, for the most part, you stay away from it. Don't get involved with it. Stay away from it and just, continue to just function how you function. Everybody is entitled to their own stuff, but that ain't me. That ain't how I function. So that's another one of the important things to really understand in dealing with this sort of thing, right? Is that other things that people do or other things that I see, don't affect me. Just not letting that stuff affect me and how I function and how I move, about things. You see what I'm saying? It's important. What's very important is that, I don't look at things and, there's a lot of things, that's important to really, do is to put things in proper perspective. One, and understand that there is an enemy, a systematic enemy that is trying as hard as to put things. One of the biggest things that the enemy does is to put things out of context, or take things out of context for you in order for you to see it in a negative light. They're taking things out of context, and having an opinion. That's one of the most negative things I really think about society now, is the fact that everything conceptualizes under its scope. And the problem with society's scope and vision is that everything is negative, right? Everything. Like, there's nothing good about society and the way it perceives anything, especially folks' authenticity, because, that is already a rule number one, a hidden rule. Like, you can't be authentic, in terms of society. So if you try to be authentic, obviously they're going to conceptualize it or put it in and try to categorize it and fit it into one of its boxes. So it's too much activity and too much, strategy and implementation going on in terms of like people's authentic selves being boxed in to one of these negative categories. So that's why it's important to stay out of any type of public or necessarily like, any type of mass media, because mass media is always going to conceptualize things in a negative light that is not you. Authenticity is still is a real thing, and people don't function that like that, how the way that the media tries to portray it. So the way that the media tries to portray shit and the way that the enemy tries to portray things is always to try to put things in a light that conceives its narrative, because if it can conceive its narrative, then it can influence other folks to get along with it. And that's the game they play. That's, the game they play is the game, is in order to, the game they play is in order to try to get you to think like them. So when they push it at you, right? When the enemy pushes things at you, it's trying to get you to think like them. It don't even matter what the message is. It's just the fact that they had the narrative behind it. So if they have the narrative behind it, they can influence how you think. And because they're the voice, that you hear, they're the only voice you hear. Now, since they're the only voice you hear, like, now it gets conceptualized that way. It's easy to think like that's a normal thing. Like, oh, people think like this, or people think like that's not how normal people think, right? The way that you receive the information from a mass perspective or from like, the media is not the same thing that people actually feel. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference. You know what I'm saying? But they push things. That's why they're so loud, right? Because the idea is to get you to think that people think that way. You know what I'm saying? When people don't think that way. You see what I'm saying? So that's the game that, you know what I'm saying, the enemy plays on you, right? The enemy is always going to try to throw images at you and try to throw like all sorts of, they're gonna try to throw all sorts of negativity at you or narratives at you that people might be thinking like, oh, people think like this, you know what I'm saying, or people think like that, or maybe like they try to push all sorts of negative images of people doing things or saying things, you know what I'm saying, to try to influence you that that's a normal thing to do. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't a normal thing to do, right? And the way that they pushing it is not normal, right? They just want you to think that way. That's why they push it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Without further ado, I'm going to conclude this video right here. But I hope this sheds some light on just how, just how the enemy be moving. You know what I'm saying? This is a psychological video for Deep Art. It's really like a critical thought video, but I wanted to put this on Deep Art. Because I think this is actually a very hot topic for health and wellness as well, right? So I'm gonna put this on Deep Art, and we gonna and we wanna go ahead and break that down. But you know what I'm saying, that's what we're gonna conclude this video on, is just a matter of being able to have some discernment and understand. This is specifically what the enemy does in order to get you to try to think a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Because under psychological warfare, everything is always about the mind. You see? So everything is always about how we can reprogram the mind. And the number one tactic that they use is to push information at you that makes you conceive or think that people think a certain way when people don't. All the ads that we used to see that we kind of picked apart, from back in the 2010s and shit like that, about like Cardi B's and Nicki Minaj's. You see how like all these hot celebrities get all these mad views, like they get like 100 million views, or niggas ain't really watching that shit. Nobody's really paying attention to that stuff. They just fake the view count in order for it to make you believe that people are actually watching it. And that's the most disgusting thing I ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? Because now they're trying to affect you and how you move and, and function. And that's the most deadly thing about how they move and how they function, right? Is they try to get you to move a certain way, you know what I'm saying? Or try to influence the kids, you know what I'm saying? And the youth, and how to, you know what I'm saying? And how functioning and how life works. None of that shit is really how functioning, how life works. That's just Hollywood bullshit trying to throw narrative at you to get you to influence you a certain way, kind of trying to pull you away from normalcy, right? The most important thing to be is your authentic self, man, and take care of yourself how you take care of yourself, and trust how your body feels and how you think. You know what I'm saying? If you tired or if you need rest, man, get some rest and get some rest and come back the next day. Take care of yourself, right? Take care of your authentic self and how you feel. You know what I'm saying? If you ready to go and if you want to express work and actually do work, man, get on your grind and do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what anybody else feel or think, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings at the end of our own soul, right? At the deepest roots of our own soul, we are human beings. So we all gonna feel that, you know what I'm saying, on some other level, on a deeper connection, not what's actually seen. You know what I'm saying? So that's the important thing to know. Like, it's not how it's necessarily seen externally, but internally we see it, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's the important thing to understand, right? If you being your authentic self, true to your own self, right? That's where truth resides. You know what I'm saying? It ain't in what you see in the images. It ain't how the system or how the enemy tries to push all of these visuals to you and all this other type of stuff to you, right? Because that ain't it, right? So that's going to conclude this video right here. But we really did want to touch on that. But I actually do want to say one more thing. You know what I'm saying? It's the fact that, this stuff right here is not, it's all this stuff that you see is not, in the limelight is not, what it appears to be, right? None of this stuff is what it appears to be. You might as well see it as just an illusion. You know what I'm saying? A bunch of glass mirrors, man, that just reflect on a bunch of types of illusions. But as they say, you know what I'm saying? If you want to defeat your enemy, you break the You destroy the image and you break the enemy. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that still stands as just a fact, right? By destroying the images and the illusions, you tear down the enemy. So it's time to tear down the illusions tear down the illusions and tear down the mirrors and tear down all of this other types of tricky stuff, man. Like Bruce Lee, man, you got to break that shit. And then, that's where you'll see, what the enemy desires. So that's the important thing I want to say in this video right here. It's going over systematic oppression, and it's just being able to really tear down the illusions of just, what you see. You know what I'm saying? Because what you see ain't always how it is. You know what I'm saying? And the truth be told is that truth resides in you. You know what I'm saying? It don't reside in what's external. You know what I'm saying? And the facts don't reside in what's external. It resides in you. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to tell the difference when you're seeing facts and when you're seeing fiction. People's impulsions and people's other things like fighting and all this stuff. All these things are negatives. You know what I'm saying? These are negatives, right? But this is what gets pushed more than anything else, right? That's what the enemy wants you to think, right? The enemy wants to separate you from authenticity or just separate you from real people and get you by yourself. And then once he got you by yourself in your space of working, you know what I'm saying, on your journey, on your path, on your vision, right, on your goals, on your you know what I'm saying, on your plan, right, on the plan, right, on mission, right, you get separated by yourself, you get by yourself, and now the enemy has all types of ways in order to try to impede on your mind as you focus. You may be doing great on one and being real productive, making great progress, you know what I'm saying, and doing everything right, everything happening exactly how it's supposed to happen. And you know what I'm saying, it's happening so good and happening so well that you don't notice the mental programming or rewiring that the enemy is doing to your own mind that it somehow gets away with, you know what I'm saying, under this process that eventually come up later, in trauma. So I'm going to conclude this video. That's for another topic. That's not for this video, but I'm going to see y'all in the next one. Peace, love, stay safe.